still a rectangular shape, we just forge it off square.
It's Rick Hall with Rick Hall Knives. Just wanted to introduce you to Mareko Maumasi. Is it Maumasi or
Maumasi?
Maumasi. I always screw that up. Anyways.
Everybody screws it up.
Yeah, well. Anyways, I wanted to show some of the professionalism that Mareko has towards forging mosaic Damascus.
What's the most important part about forging mosaic Damascus?
I think the one of the most important things, especially that I want to impart on Rick here, is to understand how the material actually flows. So we put our steel through all kinds of different processes, but it's understanding like when the forging dies, whether they're hydraulic press or hammer, when those dies engage, what's happening around with the rest of the material as it's flowing and forging and moving the material. And so yeah, that's what we're really trying to like gain a stronger understanding. Honestly, the only reason I really understand as much as I do about how this material flows is through making a ton of mistakes.
And it's really great having Mareko here because it really helps my understanding of what's happening with the steel and why I'm doing what I'm doing, other than just forging and making Damascus. I'm actually understanding what is happening with the billet, right, and where the cold spots are, where the hot spots are, and how to use that to your advantage. Mareko is amazing at his Damascus and his mosaic patterns. I think that there's not too many guys in the world that can manipulate steel like this guy does, and I've watched it firsthand. He's amazing.
So walk me through what you did today.
Oh my goodness, what did we do today? All right, so we started with a stack that was about 4 inches tall.
3.5, 4. Yeah.
3.5, 4. We laid it up so it was a symmetrical stack. So from an outer edge to the middle, from either side, it was the same layup. So whatever it was, like 2 1080, 3 15 and 20, 1 1080, 1 15 and 20, so on and so forth. So the pattern repeated until we got to the middle. So we set that weld, we drew it down to a square stock, we pushed the corners in to start to bias the material, then we forged it to a round stock, and then we forged it on a partial bias. So a normal bias is at about 45 degrees. We only did it on a partial bias of about 22.5 degrees. So basically half of 45. And then we've reduced it down to rectangular stock, and then we squared it up on the edges to try to, and we did it in a specific way that helps to try to kind of encourage the S-shape activity. Because when you do a standard bias, you basically turn it to a 45-degree angle, and then you forge it back into a square, which has the pattern kind of going at a perfect 45-degree angle. But we did it at a partial bias, so that creates like an S-shape activity. And the way we forged it is to accentuate that S-shape activity through the material, so that now we've reduced it down to, what is it, about 1/2 inch by 1.5 inch. What is it?
Yeah, inch and a half by about 1/2 inch. It's probably 36 to 39 long.
It's a pretty big bar. We're actually only going to end up working with half the bar because where it's at, the pattern that we have the S-shape activity. We can create actually a lot of different patterns from that shape. And so we're only going to use half of it to move forward and create the weave pattern that we're going to move forward with. And yeah.
It's an amazing looking pattern. We picked it out of his book, and he's showing me how to do it. I think that you'll be really pleased with the end result of the knife. He's actually going to show me how to forge a chef knife properly. I've forged several in the past, but Mareko is going to show me how to do it the right way. And
I mean the right way is a funny way to put it, but it's honestly the only thing basically I've forged for the last 10 years. So
I forged about 2 of them, so that's going to be very interesting to watch. And I've heard that he forges very thin and grinds thinner. So that's a aspect of cutting geometry, which I'm really excited to learn. And Mareko is like the master, so I'm gonna turn it over to him.
Okay, so the next steps are we got the steel, we've done some normalizing cycles, we're letting it anneal so that we can start chopping it up and restacking. We probably have, I think, another 2 or 3 welding rounds before we start forging a blade. So we're gonna get 2 in this day. We're also doing a little bit of jumping back and forth between the whiteboard and talking about some things. And I don't know, I feel like it's been a pretty productive day.
Absolutely, it's been very productive, and I also am surprised at how much of the day we actually took to do the first welds and drawing out, and the actual forging of the billet pretty much took us 6 hours, I would say.
Well, and it's part of it is like Rick was talking about is learning and understanding how the material is moving. And once you understand how the material is moving, there are certain states, certain temperatures, certain shapes that you want to kind of work with and manipulate that material so that it is doing what you want it to do.
One of the best things that I've taken away from Mareko being here is utilizing the heat and the cold spots in the billet so you can manipulate the pattern the proper way. Hourglassing the billet, that was interesting to me, that we hourglass the billet to make it more end friendly as far as the S pattern that we're putting in the billet goes. And it was interesting that I'm not just smacking on the billet like I used to do. Now it's actually finessing the billet to get the proper form of the billet in shape to move on and not get lines on the ends or bring the ends into the center of the billet.
No more Rick Bang.
Rick Bang.
More Rick Finesse.
Rick Finesse. Baby hands. Right? That's what Mike says, baby hands.
Baby hands.
Mike Quisenberry
It's all
always
about
tells me
the finesse,
baby
baby.
hands.
Where can we find you, Mareko?
So you can find me at maumasifiearts.com, on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, which I don't actually use very much. But Maumasi is spelled Maumasi. Fire Arts.
Go ahead and try and pronounce that.
Yeah, good luck. Get some smart glasses.
Smart glasses?
Oh, these are my new, I'm keeping me very safe. Yeah.
What we want to do is start upsetting it first from the ends, but then from the edges. And what's happening as you're upsetting it from the edges is the pattern starts to flow this way, and as well as this way. And when you start cutting in the bevels, it's less of a concern on this edge versus how they start, like the pattern starts creeping around onto the face from the spine, onto the face from this edge.